Today, I want to share with you 23 things that I intentionally no longer buy and do not even miss. We live in a world that quite literally bombards us 24/7 with the message that we need all the things, but I've just come to realize that this simply isn't true. Now, a few of these things might be a little bit controversial as well, so definitely stick around to the end and I'll be really intrigued to hear what you think in the comments. Let me know what you agree or disagree with. Number one is duplicate clothing. This is something that I think I have been especially guilty of in the past. So I will always be looking for that perfect pair of jeans in a specific cut that I like, or that perfect cream jumper for winter. And I will just find that I will buy endless variations of the same thing. The ironic thing is that I usually have a favorite anyway, so I will pretty much always default to that, and then the others don't even get used anyway. So something that I'm really trying to do now before I buy things is to just check in with myself and ask whether I already have something similar. If the answer to that is yes, then it's just getting really clear on if and why I really need this new thing, because the answer usually is that I don't. Next is gadgets and the latest tech. So in the past, I've often felt this real pressure to keep up with the Joneses. So I'll feel like I have to have the latest iPhone or I have to upgrade my MacBook, when really what I already have works just fine. It's actually often more of a case of just wanting this shiny new thing, but then after a couple of weeks, that feeling fades anyway. So as long as what I already have is functional, I really just try to use things now until they wear out. There's definitely been a lot of niche kitchenware that I've bought in the past that I haven't really needed. Things that will chop up certain vegetables, or it might be like a juicer or a waffle maker. They're all things that sound amazing at the time, and I have this like fantasy version of myself that I will be using it all the time. But the reality is that I just don't. So now I really try to stick to the basics and just make sure that I'm buying the best version of the basics, which are generally like multi-use things, which I get use out of every single day. It seems strange to me to say it because I used to be such a shopaholic, but I no longer buy fast fashion. And that has been one of the best things that I've done, both for my bank balance and also just from an ethical perspective. Fast fashion is the second largest industrial polluter, and it actually ranks higher than emissions from air and sea travel, which completely blows my mind. I think when we buy a £2 hoodie from Primark, we have an awareness on a level that probably can't be made ethically for that price. And yet we just keep on buying anyway, and then we're silently complicit in these systems. Definitely do some of your own research. There's some amazing documentaries that are super eye-opening. The other personal benefit is that it saves you so much money. So it's that old saying of buy cheap, buy twice. Just buy the nicer item in the first place. And I also just want to acknowledge that I know not everyone will be able to spend more on clothing, but I definitely found that the money that I was wasting and frittering away on fast fashion, if I'd just stopped buying so many things and just bought one or two nicer things, I could definitely have afforded that. Number 4 is cosmetics that are tested on animals. Now, this isn't something that I often hear talked about in no-buy lists, but it's something that's really important to me. A couple of years ago, I read a book called Animal Liberation by Peter Singer, and in it, he talks about the cruelty in animal testing. It's a really heartbreaking read, but I think it's really important that we educate ourselves and that we know what is going on in these industries. It's so easy just to pick something up off the shelf and not even give it a second thought. So what I do now is just always make sure that on the back of the packaging, there is cruelty-free certification, and that's usually the Leaping Bunny symbol or the PETA approved stamp. Next is excessive skincare and makeup. Now, I think the beauty industry does an amazing job of making women feel like they need 1,000,001 different products just to look and feel good in their own skin. But I have simply decided to stop buying into that narrative, because not only did it make me miserable, I literally ended up with cabinets full of products that I barely even used. And it was also super expensive as well. It's so easy to get lured into that promise of the miracle product and it's going to like solve all of your skincare problems. The more products you use, the more active ingredients you've got clashing with each other on your skin. And I have genuinely found, since I've simplified my skincare routine to just 4 or 5 products, that it's been so much better for the health of my skin. And I also just wanted to show you that this is my makeup bag. I really don't actually need one this big. But yeah, I hardly have any makeup anymore, literally under 10 products.
Guys, I just want to interrupt the video super quickly because if you struggle with shopping for things you really don't need, then my wish list in the Intentional Life OS has been so helpful for me when making better purchasing decisions. You can add something to the list and it gives you a 48-hour cooling off period where you can do some journaling and then just sit with it for a while to make sure it's something you actually want and not just an impulse buy. Then you can either archive it or add it to your official wish list. I used to buy so many things purely out of emotional reactivity in the moment, but I'm getting much better at avoiding that simply by having this system in place. It's just one tiny part of my larger life management system, so do check it out in the link in the description if you want to take a closer look. Okay, back to it.
The next thing is makeup wipes. And believe me, I know how tempting it is to reach for the makeup wipes at the end of a long day when you just want to get your makeup off quickly and roll into bed. But ditching the makeup wipes is honestly such a good decision because not only do they end up costing you quite a lot of money in the long run, but they're really not good for the environment either. It's a lot of packaging and waste that is just gonna sit in landfill. And it's also just a lot healthier for your skin as well because makeup wipes can really strip the oils from your skin and be quite harsh. So I've just now replaced these with some makeup remover pads. And once I've used them, I literally just put them in the washing machine and they come out like brand new. So that's definitely a switch that I would recommend. Another thing that I have stopped buying is antiperspirants. And I specifically mean the deodorants in like the metal pressurized cans. I have done quite a lot of research over the past few years to make sure the things in my home are non-toxic. One of the things that came up that really surprised me is that antiperspirants work by essentially plugging your sweat ducts with aluminium. There are some scientific studies that link these antiperspirants to breast cancer. So for me, it's just a no-brainer to replace this with something non-toxic. I made the switch recently to a brand called Fussy. The case is so beautiful. It's like the Apple of deodorant, I like to think. And you just do it on a subscription service. The refills come in compostable packaging as well. So again, that's a really nice swap for the plastic and metal alternatives. So continuing on the bathroom theme, the next thing that I've stopped buying is sanitary pads and tampons. So I made the switch a while ago to period pants. It's so much more comfortable. And I know you might think it sounds a bit gross, but it is absolutely fine. I've never had any leaks. And also once you've made that initial investment, you're going to save money in the long run because you're not having to buy pads and tampons every single month. Plus it saves on a heck of a lot of plastic waste as well. I bought a multi-pack from Wooka, but there's loads of different brands out there and you can get different ones based on the flow of your period. Something else that I have stopped buying is disposable razors. I always just used to end up buying those like really cheap plastic packs. I don't think they were very good for my skin, but there was also just so much waste involved as well. So I made the switch and bought a reusable razor. And again, it just works on a subscription basis and I will get the heads come through in the post. It looks so much nicer in my bathroom. And I think I just get a much better shave and I don't like worry about cutting myself or anything anymore like I did with the really nasty cheap ones. The next thing I stopped buying is stilettos and uncomfortable shoes. I can't tell you how many years I suffered in high heels or just generally shoes that were so uncomfortable just because I thought that they were cute or that they made me look better. Since I've hit the age of 30, I've just come to the conclusion that I just don't care that much. I just want to be comfy. I've also made a point to stop buying one-time special occasion outfits. So I used to be really guilty of, if I had an event coming up, like a wedding or something quite formal, I would feel this real pressure that I always had to show up in a new outfit. And when you think about it, it's really such a waste of money because typically we only buy these things for that one occasion. And often they're so formal that even if we wanted to, it would be hard to get more wear out of them anyway. So now I just have a couple of formal outfits which I know fit really well and I know look nice. And I'm really just working on stopping that guilt of feeling like I constantly need to show up wearing something new. Guys get away with it. They just have typically one suit that they crack out for every single special occasion. So I really think we should start normalizing that for girls as well. Next is cheap jewelry. I used to buy cheap jewelry all the time just because I wanted to switch up my look and it felt like a really easy way to do that. But what I found is that cheap jewelry typically looks good for about 2 wears and then it will really quickly start to tarnish. Now, if you only have the money to buy fashion jewelry, then I'm not saying to never buy it, but sterling silver typically isn't actually that much more expensive. So if you just wait and save up that tiny bit more, it's going to last you so much longer. And you'll probably save money because you won't have to keep rebuying the same thing over and over again. I have really narrowed down my jewelry collection, so I only have a few select pieces that I wear on repeat, and they are pretty timeless and classic pieces, so that works really well for me. The next thing that I no longer buy is animal products. I went vegan a few years ago for ethical reasons, and I don't buy any animal products now, whether that's meat, dairy, fish, eggs, or not even just food. I won't buy leather or wool or anything that is derived from an animal. Now, this might be something that you take for granted, and a lot of people probably don't understand this, but I would definitely suggest looking into the animal agriculture industry and working out whether it's something you want to be a part of. I watched a documentary film called Earthlings that is free on YouTube. And once I watched that, I literally went vegan overnight. I'm not going to get into a full-on lecture about veganism here, but suffice it to say that no longer buying animal products is one of the best things that I've ever done, and it's something that I would encourage everyone to look into. I'm very conscious about sounding too perfect with this next one, but I am being so much more intentional about not buying junk food or fizzy drinks. Obviously, because I'm vegan, I'm already plant-based, but just because you're vegan doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy if you're eating lots of overly processed and sugary foods. So I really try to eat as many whole foods as possible. Things like beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, fruit, veg, whole grains, all the good stuff. And the best way I find to do this is to just literally not go up those aisles in the supermarket, just avoid them altogether. And if you don't bring that stuff into your home, then you can't be tempted to eat it. Something else I no longer buy is plastic bottles and takeaway coffee cups. Not only are plastic bottles really bad for the environment, but they can also leach a lot of microplastics into your drink. So yeah, it's much better just to buy yourself a reusable bottle and just try and make sure that you remember to take it out with you if you know that you're going to want to drink during the day. Another thing that I've invested in is my Stanley flask, so I can just pop my coffee or tea in there when I'm going out, and that's especially useful in winter. I'm actually really sad because obviously I dropped it the first time that I went out and it's got a little chip. On the theme of plastics, I've also stopped buying plastic kitchenware, so particularly like plastic Tupperware containers. I've switched all of those out for glass containers, and not only do they look a lot nicer, but I just think for storing food, it's a lot safer. So especially when you're reheating food in plastic containers, again, the plastics can really like leach into your food. So I don't want to demonize plastic because I think it has its uses in certain places, but I really try to avoid it where food and drink is concerned as much as possible. Something else that I've stopped buying is really harsh chemical cleaning products. So I've never really liked strong chemical cleaners, and I just don't know that a lot of the time they're really all that necessary. A lot of the time I will just use bicarb of soda and vinegar, which does the job really well. Or I've also invested in some neat reusable spray bottles, which are made with more natural ingredients. Over the past few years, I've also really been trying to minimize the amount of physical entertainment that I have in my home. So things like books, DVDs, CDs. Does anyone even still use CDs? Do you remember when we used to have drawerfuls of like cassette tapes? That probably makes me sound really old. I still have a handful of my favourite books, but the vast majority of my collection is now on my Kindle, which I just find a lot easier to maintain and it doesn't take up loads of space. And then I also have things like Spotify for my music and Amazon Prime and Netflix for renting or buying films. So I just don't need to store any of those things anymore. My 13-year-old self, I think, would be really sad right now, but I've also stopped buying so much stationery. In fact, I can't even remember the last time that I bought stationery. I used to be so obsessed with buying new journals or planners or calendars and nice pens, but I just really think, like with my music collection and my book collection, so much of this now has just gone online. I do all my journaling on my computer in Notion, so I just don't really have a need for all that stationery. And I never really used to know what to do with notebooks once I'd finished them. I didn't really want to get rid of them, but they just took up so much storage. Next is little home knickknacks and decorations. I used to be a sucker for buying little things here and there that I just kind of put on shelves and would just dot around the house. But what I've come to realise is that not only do those things often tend to get lost and not really add much to my space, I really like clean surfaces because I just find it so much easier to maintain and clean. So beyond the things that I already have, I'm just making a real intentional effort not to bring any more clutter into my home. The next thing is souvenirs, and because I can be quite a sentimental person, I think this is something in the past that I've always felt like I have to buy a little something from wherever I go. What I've come to realise is that we don't need to associate things with places so much. We've got the photographs and we've got the memories, and usually that is more than enough.
Guys, I've just got to edit this video and I realised that I completely missed out one of my points. My camera battery was dying towards the end of the video, so I think I must have just completely skipped it. But this was actually a point that I was really looking forward to talking about, and one which, again, might be a little bit controversial. I no longer buy alcohol anymore. I actually stopped drinking about 18 months ago now. I never had a problem with alcohol, but I definitely think I used to rely on it in terms of relaxing at the weekends and just feeling like a more fun version of myself. But once I went vegan, I started to question a lot of things in my life, and alcohol was really just the next thing on that list. And when I looked into it more, I just realised on balance that it just wasn't worth keeping in my life. So I don't think anyone really likes the way that alcohol makes them feel the next day, but I actually also used to suffer with really bad acid reflux as well. And when I looked into it even more, the World Health Organization actually classes alcohol as a Group 1 carcinogen, which is in the same category as things like tobacco and asbestos. So it really is a toxin. And I think for me, drinking was really more about the feeling that I associated with it rather than the drink itself. There are so many great alternatives now that I don't even really feel like I'm missing out on anything. I can still have that same feeling of relaxation and ritual that I used to have with drinking alcohol, but just with the alcohol-free alternatives.
And finally, the last thing that I no longer buy is anything just because it's on sale. I don't know about you, but everything looks so much more tempting when it's on some kind of discount. I will often want things that I would never usually want at full price just because it's got 50 or 60% off. So I really try and check in with myself now before I buy something and just make sure to ask, is this something that I would genuinely have bought at full price, or do I just want it because it's on sale? And if the answer is that I wouldn't really have bought it, then it's probably one to give a miss. I hope this list has given you some inspiration for what you might want to stop buying. But creating lasting change isn't just about what you do and don't buy. It's also about shifting the deeper habits and mindsets that shape how we live. So in my next video, I'll be sharing 20 things that I used to do in my 20s that I no longer do. So make sure to stick around and check that one out, and I will see you there.